Hey, all listeners and viewers, welcome to another episode of Pathways to the Ivies. Today on our show, we have the brilliant Pranay Sadani from the Jeshri Periwal International School. He has admits from school like University of Pennsylvania, Duke, Northwestern, Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, and UIUC for computer science. This student here is exceptional and has done a lot of work, and his profile can be an inspirational to all the juniors out there. Pranay, welcome to the show. We are very, very honored to have you over. Why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself, who you are, and what your passions are outside of just being a computer geek?
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for having me here. Hi guys, I'm Tanya, like ma'am told you all right now. And so more about me, rather than the fact that, I'm a CS fanatic, I'd say that I love public speaking. Besides that, I love to spend time with my friends, watch movies with them, and along with that, just be involved in school activities and balance my academics with, different types of sports like tennis and swimming.
Wonderful. So you're basically a regular teenage boy doing all the good stuff that everybody's doing. That's good to know. But your admits are absolutely extraordinary. But before I start with this, one thing that I'd like to know the viewers and the listeners, I would like the viewers and the listeners to know is that Pranay did his grade 10 all the way up till his grade 10 in an ICSE board, after which he switched to an IB diploma in his 11th and 12th at the Jeshri Periwal International School. The reason I bring this up is there are so many parents who kind of come and tell us that, hey, you know what, we shouldn't have made the move to IBDP. Some say no, moving to IBDP was a great call. Others say, the admits with IBDP are great. But I know quite a few people who've gotten to really prestigious schools with an ICSE admit. So what I want to know from you, Pranay, is one, why did you make this switch from an ICSE school to an IB diploma? Your reasons. And what is the truth to the fact that IB gets you better admits? Is that so? Or have you seen your other folks from ICSE also get into good schools with a similar profile of yours?
See, at the end of the day, I feel that college applications can go anywhere. It's more about the person rather than the type of board that you study in. But yes, it's true that, IB gives you an upper edge over all the other types of curriculums that are there in India. Because IB has this entire environment of how you can, do different activities and at the same time study. Because generally in an ICSE school, when you go to ISC or you're on a CBSE board, you're constantly spending a lot of time in academics, right? So a majority of your time of that entire day of 24 hours just goes into studying and like going to the school. So I feel that in general, IB gives you that entire liberty and that entire opportunity to do what you want to do and actually, scale it to a level that can actually make an impact on the outside world. And I feel that I made this pitch specifically because even though I was doing really good at my previous school, I felt that, I was not challenging myself enough and being in a more challenging environment where all the other people are also trying to apply abroad. At the same time, that this entire mindset of, doing something, I feel growing in an environment where people are somewhat like you definitely helps in not just growing as an individual, but also, growing in terms of your entire networking and the fact that, you can get into a better college. Yeah.
Perfect. And I think I love how you brought the point up that the board is not as important as, your learning. You can be in ICSC, ISC, CBSC. As long as you're enjoying what you're doing, that's what matters. And of course,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, the academics are the most important thing. But definitely the reason IB is a better suited curriculum is because of its structure, right? And it's more practical learning. You just are not, it makes you more holistic. It's not just about
Hmm.
academics and rote learning. It's more about
Definitely.
doing other activities. And of course, naturally, people who go to IB go with the sole objective that they want to be studying outside, so you're naturally challenged by a good peer group. So that's perfect to know. Now, one thing that I want to bring up from here is the biggest challenge that I've seen students, for people who migrate at a 10th grade level to an 11th grade level,
Hmm.
is a difference in the study style. As you rightly mentioned before, there's like rote learning in ICSE, and then suddenly, with IBDP, there's a lot of application based learning. There's no fixed, like the grade point boundaries vary for subject to subject. There's no absolute marking, right? How in ICSE you were like, oh,
Hmm.
90% plus, you are like an A plus.
Yeah.
Whatever. Those grade point boundaries are very absolute. And a lot of times, when people switch from ICSE to IBDP in their 11th grade, they kind of really drop. And how, right? Like the score just goes for a toss and turn. So what's your take on this? Like, like,
Hmm.
does it really happen? And if somebody was to make this switch, what are the tips that they can keep in mind to successfully get into IBDP without impacting their 11th grade score? Because that, in hindsight, would feed into your predicted. And if that is low, nothing's happening.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that the most important thing while making a switch, or is whether you know yourself best or not. Because at the end of the day, if you know that, while you're choosing your subjects, that, I'm good at these, and, I need to give this much amount of time for this specific subject, and you're clear about that. And this clarity only comes, when grades 6, 7, 8, and 9, even 10, you focus solely on the fact of solidifying your foundations. So if your foundations are clear, anything that you're going to study in grade 11 and 12 is going to be very smooth. Because many friends of mine who also switched from ICSE to IB schools, they do face this entire hindrance to the fact that, different board, settling in is difficult, and it's very difficult to balance. Assessment trigger is, um, much more difficult. But I feel at the end of the day that most of my friends also who had a strong foundation, just like me, we had this entire advantage of fitting in. And that's really important at the end of the day, because if you're able to fit in, you're able to actually get hold of a lot of time and manage your time as to where you need to give more time to. So I feel that's really important in the entire status quo.
Perfect. For our listeners and viewers, can you actually elaborate the key differences in learning styles and grading styles between ICSE and IBDP so that people are wanting to switch,
Hmm,
they know what they can really expect?
definitely. So, one thing is that, in ICSE, like ma'am, you talked about how getting 90% plus is like a A plus student. So, in ISC and ICSE, it's very clear that if you get this, you are an A plus student, A student, B student. But in IBDP, it's like a 1 to 7 grade scale where essentially you're only trying to get a specific grade boundary. And what the questions are trying to answer, or, ask from you, or what you essentially have to answer is more based on your conceptual understanding of that entire question, rather than, this is this formula for differentiation. We need to apply this all the time for this specific set of questions, and you're going to get that full mark. And ISC is based on all of this, where I feel that, IB, if you know what this formula is used for, or, how is it derived, you can actually solve all the different types of questions, which makes it easier for you in college, because at the end of the day, your critical thinking skills needs to be good. And IB opens your mind in the sense that it makes you more open-minded. That's also one of the learning attributes here at IB. And I feel that this is what very different from the other curriculum, government Indian curriculums. And this grading scale is not like 90%. Some have a 7 grade boundary at 72% for physics. Some have 80, like for Hindi, 80 for English. So I think that differs subject to subject. But I feel that it's a very good gate boundary where you know that, if you have a strong concept, you can get that score. Yeah.
And who decides these grade boundaries? Is it the school, or is it the
Of course,
difficulty level
IB.
of the test, or just how everybody else is scoring? Who decides these grade point boundaries?
So it's IB essentially. So this entire curve is generated, every year. It differs, but by a small percentage, uh, based on whether the test was easy, whether the test was hard, and it's generally decided by IB, and it's released after your results. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, my next question to you is, now that you made the switch from ICSE to IVDP, can you let us know your HL and SL subjects? What were they, and your rationale in choosing, the subject, those respective subjects, and how they kind of influenced you getting into some of the best schools?
Sure. So my HLs were physics, mathematics, analysis and approaches, computer science, and my SLs were Hindi, English, and econ. Now, with my SLs, I made a very strategic choice in the sense that, I knew that I could take a new subject like Spanish AB or French AB, because it's IB and I have the liberty to learn a new language, which is really interesting because I love to learn new things. But at the end of the day, in IB, your main goal is to thrive smartly, right? And over there, if I choose Hindi, that's a subject that I've been studying for the past 10 to 12 years. And I know that, I don't need to give much time while studying the subject. So I chose Hindi in that way. Plus, English is compulsory for all, so yeah, that's definitely a go-to. But besides that, econ, because I feel that if I have to do something after grade 12, after college in general, or in college, either I'll be doing something in a combination of CS with econ or CS with math or CS in the domain of healthcare. So I feel that econ plays a big role in my life choices. So that's why being passionate about that subject, I chose that. And my HLs were pretty straightforward because, I needed to go to the computer science stream. So maths, physics, and computer science is the easy go-to. I could have even chosen chemistry, but I feel that, being a computer science student, it gives me the upper edge to actually easily manage computer science and IBDP. So I feel it's the right choice to go from there.
Perfect. And what was your predicted like, or what were your grades looking like generally through your 11th and 12th grade? And what was your predicted like, if you have an idea?
Essentially, a school doesn't release, the predicted grades, but I'm expecting that it was, above 44s because I maintained a solid 41, 42s in my semesters. So yeah.
So basically, it's 2 points higher than what it. That's generally the trend for most people. Like if you're at
Yeah,
41, 42, they'll predict you at 44. Because if
yeah,
43,
because
42.
three is TOK as well, like TOK and E combined.
Three
So yeah.
combined three points,
Yeah.
but they can never give you three complete points. Like if they're doing E and TOK, even if they give you three complete points on the real test, they can't predict you to three full points. So whatever your 11th grade score is, and I think your first semester 12th grade, they average that out for most schools, and then kind of add two more points to it, and that's what ends up being your predicted. Like you have a fair enough idea of how
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of go about doing it. That's brilliant. How important
Yeah.
do you think are academics in getting these comparative admits? Like, a lot of people say, oh, I'm doing this activity and doing that activity and all of that. What do you think what's your take on having solid academics?
Right. So, we were talking to a Penn professor. Like, we had this interview with Penn professor as an activity. I was doing like a podcast that the cultural heads of our school had created. And talking to him just gave me this entire insight that, even for the people, who visited from, to our school from Penn, Yale, and all the prestigious colleges, academics are great. But at the end of the day, they're looking more about the personality or the type of person you are. And like, let's be real, for any, good admit into a prestigious university, you need to have the grades and it has to be in the high bands. But it does not mean that you got a 90%, let's say 80% in ICSE, then you came to IB and you got a 40 first semester, and then second semester you got a 42. Doesn't mean that they don't see the growth. So I feel growth in academics really important. And if you grow even from a very low percentage to a high percentage, but considering the fact that you then maintain that consistency, for the past 1 or 2 semesters, and that you've gone to that entire higher band in the last 2 semesters. I think that's what's important. That's what college looking for you also in the terms of academics.
Absolutely. So have I mean, show a growth curve even if you've screwed up, like, your
Hmm.
ninth and 10th grade, it's okay as long as you're showing a consistent growth. Have the growth, study well, try to get as high score as possible. And of course,
Hmm.
work on your personality because what shows on the resume should match the person that they are
Hmm.
looking at. Did you ever give any interviews for all these colleges? Because some of them have optional interviews, others they decide. Did you have any interview sessions with any of these colleges?
So I got an interview from Yale because I applied early to Yale and I got an interview from Yale. And other than that, I got from Duke. So these are the two interviews that I did. And generally, you get to know, for all the colleges, how important an interview is when you go to their common data set. You can just Google it up and then you see whether it's considered, not considered, or how important it is for that college.
How do you find the common data set for that particular college? Like, is it
So you
freely available?
Yeah, it's freely available. Like, it's on the internet. You just need to Google it, that university name, common data set. Then you can choose which year you want to look at. Probably you want to look at the past 2 to 3 years. Plus, if someone's, giving an interview, I had few of my friends, uh, there's this entire website that I don't recall right now, but you can record your interview. They ask you certain predefined questions that's AI generated, I feel, and then you can answer them and you can record and send it to the university that you want to, and that can become a considered part of your application for that university.
Oh, okay. If you can just name the website whenever you find it, that would be great.
Definitely.
That's great. All right, let's talk a little bit about your experiences. I think the single most thing that which I see really dominating are three things. One is teach speech, second is predict text, and third is debate. Let's start with one at a time. Let's start with teach speech. Can you tell me what is teach speech? How did you conceive this idea, and what was the impact you left, in this process?
So I'd like to start with what teach speech is, and then I'll go how it originated, and then I'll say what we have done with it. So, first, talking about what it is, essentially, you can understand from the name that we teach people speech. And the reason that we came up with this idea. So, my senior at this school and I, we love public speaking, and we have this entire passion to empower people who can who do not have the resources to speak, but they have the entire perspectives, ideologies, that entire mindset to grow and thrive, but they can't because they really don't have the resources to become confident speakers. Because speaking in general has changed my life. I wasn't a very fluent speaker early on in my life, but then as I braved on different moments and stood in front of the mirror, tried to just refine my public speaking skills again and again and again. I just feel that if you put in the hard work and discipline onto something, you can achieve anything. So that's how I improve my speech. And then my senior and I, we devised this entire strategy, a very effective strategy to make people confident. First of all, the biggest challenge was that we were not teaching people of just our age. We were teaching underprivileged students in government schools. That also included people in the Rafah camp in the Gaza Strip. Uh, so we had them crack IELTS. Along with that, we had people from Africa in government schools who, we went on a summer camp and taught them English. But besides that, our main focus were inmates in correctional facilities, because the entire aspect of inmates is that, they have this entire tendency of repeating, their offenses. And recidivism is increasing not just in the US, but in India as well. Plus, with the entire aspect that people are not educated and poverty is increasing, or more like inequality is increasing. Even though with the different government schemes as well, I feel it's really important that if people have the ability to speak properly and they can pitch themselves in the way people can't perceive them as a repeat offender or a potential repeat offender, they can change the way people look at them. And if people can change the way they're perceived, they can actually become someone who they really want to be. So they can actually pursue their passion and they can't be judged for who they actually were and not, are.
That is perfect. And what did you do as a part of teach speech? Like how many? What is your impact like in terms of the numbers, if you can quantify that?
So exact number, I can't recall, but it's around 5K people in India and the other parts of the world that we did impact. And I feel that this was by far my biggest passion project, for which I was my senior and I collectively were awarded by 3 to 4 organizations for it. And we were nominated and finalists for a few awards, but we didn't make it. But of course, that's part and parcel of life. Yeah.
Perfect. And did you collaborate with NGOs across the world? Because another question that we get, is people come with all these crazy ideas, right? Sustainability or like teaching, tutoring, whatever. But and they want to make a global impact, but they probably don't know who to kind of reach out to make
Hmm.
that global impact. Was you're sitting in India, and there are thousands of people, like you mentioned, Ghana, right, or Africa. So how do you get in touch with those people? Was there something specific that you did? Or, what would you advise to people who want to make a global impact?
I think two things very important. One, cold emailing, and second, not losing hope. So, coming to the first fact, cold emailing. is a very simple technique. Maybe it's through LinkedIn, maybe it's through email, maybe it's just, randomly going on Google, searching, you know, uh, underprivileged NGOs in my locality, just starting small. You look up their uh, website or just their Google page. You go onto that, and maybe, they don't have an email. So you call them up, and you need to be confident in terms of what you're trying to pitch to them or what you're trying to ask them, because at the end of the day they also know that they have limited resources because they're NGOs and they're not very highly funded. So uh, considering that they also need help, they need the resources for the people in that NGO or in that specific organization to also grow, to become better. So it's like a symbiotic relationship. So if you cold email and you reach out, and for cold emailing, there's this entire template that I came across when I was at a Harvard summer school. And so what they essentially teach you is that you initially just start off by taking who you are and what your main goal is. And instantly after that, you give them what the problem with their organization is, or what the essential need is for what you're providing. So once you clarify or give, or set the foundation for what they require, you give them the solution. So this is what we provide, and in a bulleted list, because they don't want text dense information on an email. So they just woke up and they don't want to read a very text dense thing. They're just like, okay, later, let me archive it for now. So you put in a bulleted format, and after that, you give a call to action. Can we hop onto a Zoom call maybe later this evening, or this date, whenever you're free, or maybe we could jump on a call, or we could meet, or whichever is more feasible or practical according to person to person. So that, and second, you're going to be rejected because a lot, you're going to fail most of the times. And like if you email 10 people, the success rate is probably going to be 1 or 0. So if you do 100, it's going to be 2 or 3 replying out of 100. So you just need to put in the effort, and I feel that results automatically come up.
So you approached all these NGOs through cold email and then had them respond, and then some of them responded to you, and then you established that process of, teaching speech to these folks across, and hopefully successfully. That's why you have taught over 5,000 people. Kudos on that. While speaking, you also mentioned that you went to a Harvard summer school. What was that? If you can just tell me a little more, because I don't see that on your profile, or did I miss that? Just go about telling me.
Yeah. Uh, my resume is not updated. Yeah, so the name of the program was Harvard Venture Tech Summer School Program, and it was pretty new, fairly new, but I like the concept of it. And I applied to all the other summer schools also, like YYGS, MNTSI, SUMAC, but I either got waitlisted, deferred, or rejected. But at the end of the day, it's all right to get rejected. So to all the people who do get rejected or deferred from it, it's not the end of the life or world. You can still get in. So yeah, so I did go to the summer school, and what they essentially do is that they have these entire fireside chats with industry leaders. Along with that, they teach you business, and how business can be integrated with the entire tech aspect of it. And along with that, they match you up with an internship that you probably like with, and they're all like new startups, uh, maybe from all the prestigious universities like Stanford, Harvard, Caltech, and then they pair you up with them. And I was paired up with a very cool startup by Stanford. Students are actually second or third year dropouts or students. They did this thing with this Berkeley accelerator program where they uh, really, so there's something called red teaming. And what red teaming essentially does is that if people attack your computer, you have this entire aspect of, you can understand already how to, you know, defend against these counter attacks that you have in your computer. So to the cyber tech side of it. So it was really cool. And I do recommend it, but I would say that apply for scholarships for that program because they are very generous in terms of it.
Okay, and how competitive is this program? Like, because like I know YYGS is very competitive. MNTS, SI, SUMAC, super, super competitive. How about this one? Is it competitive? How early should somebody try? And what are the criteria? Because I know like MNTSI prefers students having an SAT score. Same with RSI. There is a preference for students with an SAT score. So what's it like for this particular course?
I feel SAT is important. But along with that, they have this entire application that you need to write, like for every other summer school, essays, and you need to upload your resume. But it's not as competitive as these other summer schools, but it's fairly competitive. That's what I've heard. It's only going to get more competitive over the years. Yeah.
Perfect. So, I mean, people do, like, people who don't have at that point in time the most competitive profiles, they still maybe can apply and check vis-a-vis,
Hmm.
when somebody does an RSI, 9 on 10
Hmm.
people are expecting themselves to be rejected because that's essentially what RSI is. So, fair enough. That's good to know. Let's go to your second venture, which is PredictX. You're the founder of this, and you've been doing this since 2021, which is almost 4 years now. So, can you tell me a little bit more about it? What have you done, and what? How does it help people, and what's your contribution and the impact of the project overall?
So Projectax was, how it started was very emotional, I would say. And I used to, go to this clinic in Calcutta. So I'm from Calcutta, and I shifted to Jaipur for, JPIS. And so we used to go to the hospital for my grandfather's weekly slash monthly diabetes check. And, generally his blood sugar level was always high, but it was not something that happened earlier on in a family lineage, but it did occur. So, I just had this entire aspect that, when blood comes out all the time of your hand, and is there any way that, we can lessen the pain of individuals? So going deep into all of it, I realized that it's not just about the pain that people experience, but it's also about so many people not getting access to, these tests in the first place. And it's not just about diabetes in general, but all the other diseases, like all the major diseases. So I created this entire software initially, and then later a kiosk that could assess diseases early on, like from the premature stage itself, because your body has biomarkers, and they hint at the fact, if they are high or slightly deviate from the normal values. And we had this entire data set that we had collected from Indian hospitals all across. And along with that, we had different US universities who we had also collaborated with. So we had this huge data set that we attained on, and we had different types of patients with different types of disease like breast cancer, kidney disease, liver disease, diabetes, heart disease. And we tried to assess beforehand whether they have the disease or not. And we were pretty accurate with it, 98.2% accuracy. And we even filed a patent for it, for which we granted a provisional one. So that was my main computer science passion project, I would say. And to all the other students and parents watching it, my advice to everyone would be having one uh, major, specific, or centric passion project, and one should be a very social, um, ground up model project that you really resonate with.
So in your case, your passion project where you kind of resonated, like, I mean, you did it for your personal reasons would be PredictX, and then for the more social thing would be Teach Speech, or is it the other way around?
I think it's the other way around,
Okay.
because public speaking was personal to me, and this was also personal, but I would say more research oriented in back. So I would say this for the social side of it. But yeah.
Fair enough. And I think what I really like about when I look at your profile, just generally, right, is it's a very fluff free profile. Meaning, when you look at people's profiles, there are like so many activities. Sometimes I actually take out 30 minutes to read people's resumes. And kudos that they've done so much. But, like, I just like that you've done a lot, but it's not crazy. But you've built a lot of depth in whatever you're doing. Like, your teach speech is 2023, your PredictX is 2021. You've done like consistent work, and this is something that I keep on telling all the students and parents who talk to me. Please don't do like a laundry list of activities. Do
Hmm.
something that A, matters to you, and B, you can show a spike, a depth that is there, to your profile. So, I mean, that's something that you've done, and I'm very proud of you that, you latched onto it very early on rather than doing like, oh, I'll do this also and that also and that also, and then you just end up getting nowhere. So that's that. How about debates? You come across like as a very astute debater. Can you tell me, because another thing that a lot of people feel that MUNs debates don't hold any value, like it's just a waste of time. What's your take on that? And How do you perceive this, or how would you like to break this myth if it is a myth in the first place?
I think it's not a myth like at all. It's very true. It's really factual because like when I got into Penn, we had the AO email us this entire very personal email to you where they say two or three activities that they really liked of mine. I think debating was one of the things that she did mention, and I feel it's more about the person that you become through debating at the end of the day because. I feel that I started out with model UNs and they really helped me like to grow my confidence. But I feel that model UN is good the way it is for a simulation, enjoyment, and entertainment aspect of understanding how the UN works and what it's all about. Uh, but at the end of the day, if you really need to enhance the way you think, the way spontaneously reply to questions, or the way you should actually talk, the modulation, the expressions, debate really helps an individual in that area of it. So it's more like personal development rather than profile building per se. And even if you're not a confident public speaker, I feel debating in general would not just make you confident if you just start out, but it would also make you someone, that when you look up into the mirror, yes, you're confident, you can go anywhere, you can, head on face any challenge. Life just becomes easier when you're a debater. I just feel that, yeah.
And what are the debate competitions that you won? I see quite a few, but for people who are interested in debating, if you can just state your accolades in competitions you participated in, and the positions you won.
So I started out with inter-house debates, like in my ICSE school. That's where I developed my debating acumen and seeing how my fellow seniors used to debate. That got me interested into it. And after that, I did normal inter-school debates. These different fests. But it's good to go for these different inter-school fests. But you need to realize what's really important for you are these national and international tournaments for profile building if you look at from that angle. So a it would be ISDS, and second it would be IDL, so Indian Debating League. So what they do is that they have these entire state regional tournaments, and after that, as you win all of them, you have national tournaments. And once you win all of that, you either get into the Indian team and you represent India for WSDC debates, and that's where you actually want to look out for because once okay, if you think that you're not going to be that good for debating, but just want to debate to become confident in life, perfect. That's a great attitude. But second, if you really think that you're taking debate seriously and you really want to do something with it, I feel this is the way to go about. You go to ISDS and IDL and you participate in the different tournaments and openings that they have for. And I think I really got into it last when I was in grade 11 when I came to the school because I really did not know that, India had a debating team until grade 11. And JPIS showed me that, IBDP showed me, especially specifically JPIS, that, we had these tournaments, these opportunities, and I signed up for them, surprisingly won. And then after that, after, being top speakers in nationals and regional tournaments, then we went for these international. I went to Cambridge for an international debate representing India. So over there, we were top five or six ESL speakers. My partner and I, six or seven. Then we did this Pakistan debate where we represented India and we came second. Then we did this Princeton debate. We came second. I know we didn't come first, but I'm going to do one last debate before I go to college, and I'm counting on that first. Yeah. But I did a lot of international tournaments. But yeah, it was a really nice learning experience for me. Yeah.
That's good. And I'm so glad that, you broke the myth that, oh, debates are not important, because they are important. I think more than what is important and what is not important, it's very important for parents and students to understand what is important for you. You
Hmm.
recognize this very early on that you like debates, even when you were in ICSE. And then when you came to IBDP and your school gave you the opportunity to build on that, right? And you really did something that you liked rather than thinking, oh, the college may not have liked debates. Let's just scratch this. No. Because you did that, and then you further nurtured that passion when you kind of went and did teach speech, right? So it kind of builds on to that one common lingering theme, which is like super
Hmm.
support. important. So good to know that. How about awards? I think I really like your Primerica Emerging Visionary Silver Medalist Award. You were a silver medalist there. If you can tell me a little bit about more. I think initially before we started, you said you had some incident there. Would love everybody to know that. And what is it and how did you go about doing it?
Hmm. Yeah, uh, so basically, you get shortlisted. There were around 2,500 or 3,000 people from India who applied for this award. The year I applied, 2023 December, maybe I applied and I got the award 2024. And essentially, it's a social event and you apply with a social project that you've created. And it's closed apparently this year. Maybe they reopen next year. But it's a great award, really prestigious. That's what I had heard. And I really had no hope. So when I did get shortlisted and we had to go to Delhi, uh, and we did go to Delhi. My senior and I both got shortlisted. So the person I started Teach Speech with also got shortlisted for another one of his other projects. So I went for Teach Speech. He went for another project of his own called Mocha, and we went over there and we had this entire interview round that we had to crack. uh, the last 25 of us who were nominated or shortlisted as finalists. And over there, I was really nervous. Like, I was really, really nervous, and I've never been that nervous before an interview or any speaking event. And I felt really different. But I went inside, and we had these different judges. Like we had an ex Supreme Court judge, we had a High Court lawyer, we had really old English professor from some prestigious Indian university, and then we had other dignitaries as well. So they had this entire panel of people, and then they ask you a question what your project is about. And I felt that just telling them teaching speech to people is not that unique. Like anyone can teach. But so what I thought of, in the moment, that if I have to be different from the other people, it's just a life lesson for all those also, if you go to an event or any place where you need to pitch your project, I feel just give them a demonstration of how it works, and then they'll get a new idea and they'll understand that this person is confident automatically. So I stood behind and then I gave a demonstration of how I first captured the attention of people, how I then engage them, hook them, and then I try to, force learnings on them. Once I teach and, vomit all the learnings onto them, I try to make them think. Because if they're not thinking and reflecting on their own, there's no point. Because you're listening from one ear, getting out of the other ear. It's really important that you think, understand, reflect, ingrain it in yourself, and then try to incorporate in your day-to-day life. So that's what I tried to show it to them, and I think it worked. And they cracked, and they enjoyed it a lot. I got a standing applause, and I was really happy that day.
That's nice. How about the Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Award? What was that for? Like, what is that award and what were you awarded for?
So, Frederick and Susan B. Award, it's basically an award that high schoolers get for their outstanding academic achievement and a sense of social awareness, if I'm right and I've said it in the right way as to how they phrase it. Uh, so that's what it's about. And I didn't know that my school had nominated me for it, but I randomly got a mail from them, and then I got a call from my teacher saying that you have won this. And I didn't know, but I was happy about it. And um, so for all those, I feel that awards, people say that getting all these different awards are really, really important for your application. And I feel that, yes, they are important. But I had my roommate who also got into UPenn with just one award that he had, and not the other awards were as significant as the others. So it's fine not to have crazy awards or crazy ECs, but like ma'am said, then it has to be a specific theme in your application, and that thread that joins and tells me about who you are as a person. And I think that's really important. But yeah, that does not mean that you don't study, you don't get your SAT. I feel it's the entire culmination of everything into one specific box where they can actually judge you that yes, he has the grades, he has a specific theme, he has a very clear mind about stuff, and he's a very passionate individual. Yeah.
Perfect. And did you end up taking the SATs? Because I don't see that score here again, probably an not so updated resume. If you did, what was your score? And if you did
Uh,
not, then what was your rationale of going test optional? Because another very big debate, test compulsory or test optional. Now that a lot of IVs are test compulsory,
yeah.
unfortunately, you'll have to do it, but there are still IVs that are test optional. So, what should one think about this from a student's perspective?
I feel giving the SATs or the ACTs really important because uh, okay, being test optional is one way to look at it if you don't get that score that you desired. So first things first, I got a 1520, 800 math, 720 English, and I tried to increase. This was raw. I tried to give another attempt, like a couple attempts to increase my English score, but it didn't go up. Maybe it was the lack of preparation. Um, but yeah, that was one thing that I did want to improve in my application, but it all worked out at the end, and it's not just your SAT that aids your application. Do remember that. But at the end of the day, if you're getting a good SAT score and with the IVs again reinstating it, it just sends a signal that you need to give a specific amount of time. And I feel that EduFit also has this entire feature of SATs. So uh, if you're giving that entire aspect of time into it and you actually do English, math passionately again, I feel it'll work out. Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely. And I think I understand. And this is what I tell people that, I know people who are test optional and have made it to good schools. I know people
Yeah.
with very good scores have not made it to the school. It's
Hmm.
just an important data point, but it's not everything. Like, there are people without SAT who made it to Penn. I know people like that, right? And there are people who have gotten it and not made it. So just use it as a data point. My only advice, and which I tell a lot of people, is to start the prep a little early overall,
Hmm.
rather than concentrating it for your grade 10 level. This is something that has been um reinforced by a lot of kids, that a good time to actually start your prep is 10th grade. It is not the summer of the 10th and the 11th in between. If you start early, you will have more tries and you'll have more room to improve your score. That's just my general rationale. And everybody has seconded to this, that had we known, even if it was in a remotest corner of our mind, that we're going to end up doing this, we would have started early. 100%, rather than just parking it for the 10th grade level. So that's that. But yeah, what about common app essay? What was your theme like? How important do you think are essays? And how should one go about thinking through all these essays? Because I know for a matter of fact that Penn has so many essays. In fact, they're one of their essays, why would you like to be a part of University of Pennsylvania, or on those
Hmm.
lines, about 500 words. That's like a lot of words to put in, and that's a lot of research. So how can a student go about writing good essays? Can you comment a little bit about the research that a student should put in to write these essays?
So, at a very simple strategy that I've come to realize as to how I wrote my essays, A, it's very important that you live your life and you're trying to portray the life that you have lived and not portray the life that you want to portray. Because it's your narrative, it's your story, it's your experience. And if you're trying to frame an experience, okay, it can work for some of the individuals, but for most of you, if you write it in your own tone, in your own language, and your own experience, I feel nothing can beat that. Like, just consider that you're trying to narrate that experience to your friend, and
Hmm.
the entire excitement into it, the entire joy, that happiness, just put it into the way that you're writing. And the way how I write it is that I see that whether I can debate it or speak in the way I debate. So every essay, if I can see it in the way that I'd like to say or the way I see it, and it's very smooth, I feel that yes, this is how I'd like to write my essay, because I know my tone, the time I take a space in the words I speak, the full stop, the uh, different endings. So that's how you get to know that's your tone into it. Because many people do use AI to write their essays, and I'd say okay, but AI just makes your essays picture perfect. And I've seen several admission officers talk about it online as to how they understand that it's written by an AI, because at the end of the day, they are not dumb. So yeah. So if they understand that entire aspect, or if you just understand uh, how an essay could be written the most perfect, okay, you can take help from me. It's not wrong, but just try to write it in your own way at the end of the day, and I think it'll work out in the best way possible. And coming to my common app, I feel your entire application should follow a thread. So my common app was again about public speaking, and how not being a fluent public speaker to actually becoming a fluent speaker, how swimming shaped me as an individual and allowed me to brave the entire side of me, and eventually how I brought about growth in other people through teach speech. So that was my common app.
And that was your theme, right? Like debating, talking. Perfect.
Public
And
speaking, yeah.
public speaking. And is there a way or an advice that you give students to think about what should they write about the common app? Because I see a lot of people just randomly picking things. Oh, I did robotics. I'm going to write about it. Or, I won so and so on. I'm going to write about it. But I think Common App is like a way for you to demonstrate who you are as a person, right? So I always tell a lot of people that think about this when you enter somebody's house who you don't know anything about. You clearly don't know their house. And then, enter their living room and you see this beautiful crystal chandelier which has been lit up, right? It's very, very difficult to not look at it for even 1 second because that's how it's done up. So common app is basically that crystal chandelier in somebody's house. Your application is that house which is going to talk about everything like your activities and all of that, but your common app is that chandelier which you got to like make create an impact, and it has to be the right representation of you, who you are as a person, and like it has to be you. It cannot be big fancy words, or it cannot be something which you don't relate to, because people see through things that they don't relate to, right? So what would be your advice to people who want to pick, oh, this would be a far appropriate topic for me to write and represent me, versus something that looks really good on the paper but is not?
Definitely. So common app is the it's like your major life experience on a sheet of paper, and it needs to have everything about you as to how you grew up, your vulnerability coming out, the problems that you faced, how you, and you're not talking about all the problems, okay. We don't want to know that, you went to school, you came back from school, you went to this tuition, then you did this activity. Okay, that's an day experience. But over here, we're talking about an entire life experience. If you think that robotics have shaped you the most in the life, in your life, then you can make your common app about it, because that's who you think you've become. But if you think that it's about your, maybe if it's the environment that you lived in and how that has shaped you as an individual, the problems you faced in that environment, and then how you solve them, how you became a more confident individual, or how you outgrew all of that, and how you took that learning experience into helping others. So I feel what Common App essentially is trying to judge, like you said, is who you are as a person. So if you're able to tell the admission officers and convince them that this is my life story and this is why I should be in your college, because my experience or the life that I have lived, my major or the most important life experience is something that the qualities that I've learned through it is something that's going to help me thrive at your university. So that's what the admission officers, trying to look out for. And another interesting thing that you could do to understand what a university wants, or which university is the right fit for you, is you go to a 2030 mission plan of that specific university, you Google it up, and you see what are their missions and values. I saw that Princeton values people who are more towards, equity. Then Yale values X sort of people. Penn sort of values interdisciplinary learning sort of people. So every term they release this. So 2030 has this entire mission plan of theirs. After that, they'll change it again. So if you just see that if your application is bringing out these values about you, so you get to know whether you're a right fit for that university or not. But at the end of the day, that's just one side of it. There's so many other essays that also judge you. not judge you, but in the sense, try to understand you. And while you're writing any essay, it's really important that you try to give context as to, okay, you wrote that I went to Dubai. I had the best experience in a roller coaster. Then I came back home and I did this. You're describing an experience. Perfect. But when you're describing an experience, you need to say what you learned out of that experience, how that experience taught you. What are you going to do with that experience? So once you're contextualizing all of that, you're you're allowing the other person to understand more about you as to how you think, as to what you essentially want to do with it. And I think that's really important in terms of how you write your essays or how you approach your entire application. And it's okay that you don't understand it when you're writing your first draft. I had 25 to 35 drafts of my Common App, and then I came to my last draft, like last and final draft. So it's all right. And it's all right that you're about to scratch your entire Common App and write a new one. I had two Common Apps. So it's something that people do. It's something that even you might want to do. And at the end of the day, it's your life, so you dictate how you portray yourself to the university.
Absolutely. And I think you made a very good point here. So see, impact. It's very important to write the impact of whatever this activity did for you. But impact can be at two levels. One is saying I taught 5,000 people, or 5,000 people got influenced by this, right? And so happened. And I was able to bring this to so many people. And you're putting numbers to this. Now, this kind of impact usually is better suited for a resume where you're putting in bullet pointers. In a common app, when you're writing about a certain activity, the impact that you really need to quantify is how did it change you as a person? What was the internal metamorphosis that you went through while doing this activity, whether it was public speaking, whether it was robotics? How did you change as a person? What did you learn? And that's essentially what shows the growth for any student mentally and intellectually. Did I say this right? And did I like phrase this right in terms of what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I feel that you're right in what you're trying to convey. Because at the end of the day, uh, if you're not able to portray what or how you think, they're not understanding about you. If you're a national level swimmer, perfect. That's on your resume. But along with that, what have you learned through swimming? If you're a tennis player, great. I know that you can serve it, serve a ball. But then at the end of the day, what have you learned from tennis? Is it sportsmanship? Is it friendship? Is it strategy making? What is it? So, what you take back from things very different for you and me. Maybe you can teach 100 kids SAT, and at the end of the day you have one perspective. Then there could be another person, let's say me teaching 100 kids SAT, but I could have another learning experience because my interaction is different from your interactions. My way of teaching is different from your way of teaching, or how you look at things. So I'm looking from my lens, you're looking from your lens. Plus, it's important to look from all the lens. I believe that's what divergent thinking is. But you know who you are as a person. That's what's important, and that's what you need to tell other people too.
Absolutely. Last two questions before I let you go. College research, in terms of
Hmm.
why that college is important. So some schools give you a lot of opportunities and a lot of words to tell you why do you think this school is a good fit for you and you are a good fit for this school. And then some actually only give you like 100 words, and that's too less to make an impact, right? But if you were to make do that kind of college research, which is actually hardcore research, it's not, those pages are not just available online, it's not brochure content, it's
Hmm.
speaking to people, it's researching on subthreads of Reddit, right? What's your advice for people who, for people who are looking at these aspirational better colleges, and how can they go about researching things that are not parroting the brochure or the website of that particular college?
So, if it's pen research, you can always reach out to me. But besides that, for every college research, you reach out to your seniors if you know any one of them, or you again cold email people on LinkedIn. You try to get on a call with them, try to understand. I was lucky that JPIS has had a big set of people into all the prestigious universities, and they even come for visits once or twice a year. So it's really important to meet people, because I feel that for Northwestern specifically, I didn't know about this entire thing that's happening at Northwestern, and there's this entire tradition of painting the rock. But what they do is they also, camp around and then they protect their painting. So that's something that it's not there on the internet. You can only understand once that person has lived that experience. So you talk to these people, understand the different things, the unique things, and your research is also something that sets you apart from other people, because everyone's going to write that, this course is going to help me do this at your specific college, your this library is going to be my hub for this specific learning. But at the end of the day, you need to tell them that for your specific projects, for your specific goal and ambitions, how can that college specific resource can help you scale, can help you grow as an individual, or what it can do for you, or what you want it to do for you. Because as much as you want to get into that college, they want to make the right decision in taking you as, an admit. So even they want to make the right call over there. And they can only understand when you say it in the most specific way possible, contextualizing everything that you can. So you go to Google, you go through normal that college specific research. Maybe you could watch different videos. I used to watch a day in the life of that specific university's videos to get some understanding the experiences. If they talked about some tradition, Google traditions of that specific college, talk to seniors, maybe go to Reddit. I didn't go to Reddit, but maybe go to Reddit. uh, Plus, you can have different opportunities at these seminars that these college have. And I'm glad that in our school at JPIS, we had these different seminars by different colleges. They come for visits and they talk about their college. So if you're able to interact with that person themselves, you can understand what's more important, or what their facility is like for computer science, what's happening in computer science. Plus, there's so many things happening in any department, so many funding coming in. You can always go to that specific university's website and go to news. And under news, you'll get so many different news about, you know, uh, NHI funding this specific startup for this much valuation, or this much just funding for this specific research. And if that research aligns with your research, you can talk about how you want to work under that professor and do something great. So it's all very clear, all very contextualized, and all very specific for your want, and how that want of yours can be amplified through that college's resources. So if it's complex, you can always reach out to me, or you can rewatch this part. I don't know how clear I am, but yeah.
No, I think it's pretty clear. I think it's just showing that you are a good fit for a college and the college is a good fit for you through actions and your
Hmm.
goals and your visions, and saying, okay, you have this resource which can help me accomplish my vision here, and hence we're a good fit for each other.
Hmm.
That's essentially what you're trying to say. Okay, last question. Any mistakes along the process? Anything that you wish you'd done earlier, done better? Anything that you see people doing wrong and can be fixed, or should be fixed? What's your take on that?
And two, three things. A, don't miss out on the fun, because college experience, you get into the entire college, like whichever college you hope you get into. And after that, you feel that you've made it, but it's not just about making it into a college. Because at the end of the day, you are going somewhere after grade 12. Your life's gonna go ahead. But the entire experience that you have in these 2 years, grade 11 and 12 specifically, they're gonna shape you. And I feel that I'm really glad that how I was shaped grade 11, 12, the growth that I have had as an individual myself, the different incidents and experience I've had, reviewing my peers' essays, or just having fun after a break of writing 3 to 4 essays for a college. So um, make the entire process fun, because if it's not fun, it's very hectic. And something that's hectic can always, affect your stress levels, your cortisol levels. But at the same time, you need to enjoy and have a high, dopamine production in your body or in your mind. That's what I believe. So meditate. That's something that I did. That's something that everyone should do twice, once, when you once wake up, once before sleeping. So uh, any type of meditation that you think aligns with your choice, because there are several online. So I used to do Wim Hof's breathing techniques as well. So you just breathe, and just gain that entire calmness within you, maybe before sleeping or before any important event, and try to not think that making it to the college is the most important thing in life. Besides that, I feel that enjoy while you're enjoying the process, don't get distracted too also. Because when I say have fun, does not mean that you go party every Friday night and then, Saturday you're also partying, then every day going out with friends, but also working on essays. But you need to do everything in the right combination that you know that you're balancing everything. Because you have your academics, you have your activities, you have your SAT, and along with that, you have other, AP exams if you're in ICSE or you're in CBSE. You just need to manage everything. So I had different time management rules, have different goals I had set at this entire if not situation that if I don't do this, I'll have to do this. So a challenge that you take on and you'll live up to it. So yeah,
And I need
enjoy
to
the
say
process.
application level, like
Uh,
not just this. This is like personal, and those are great pieces of
yeah,
advice. But on an application level, something you did right,
application
something you did wrong.
level. Hmm. One thing I did wrong was focusing too much on making my essay look perfect or very interesting for the college of officers, because when you're writing an essay you want it to be very crazy with an analogy or with a metaphor, but sometimes that metaphor does not work and you really think that that essay is amazing, but until you get a reality check from your counselor that that or maybe from any peer. I think that's where peer work or peer review is very important, someone's review, because you don't really understand whether it's actually coming out the way that you want it to come out. And so it's important to make your essays good or sound good or have the entire hook aspect, but sometimes it can be very straightforward, your own words, very simple words, and getting that entire aspect out thoroughly. And that was one mistake I did. Along with that, if I have to reflect, I think I spent too much time thinking about an idea, whether that idea would work or not, because being a debater, I'm forced with these different ideas at the same time, that this is the experience that I want to run and have the pros and cons for it. This is the experience I want to run, these are the pros and cons for it. And every experience, I'm biased towards it. As an individual, you're biased towards every experience because you've lived it and you've enjoyed it. Or even if you've hated it, you've learned something out of it. So don't think too much about your ideas. If you're thinking too much, just write a draft on all of them. But at the same time, don't waste a lot of time on it because you need to be writing a good draft. And that means in complete isolation. When you're writing a draft, I suggest don't be around your friends, don't be around people, don't be around your phone or any gadgets. You just need to turn on D&D for real and actually log in and get your work done. And after that work's done, you can do whatever you want to. I feel that's really important.
I think you brought up two beautiful points. Number one is most good ideas that look great on paper are not very good in your head, and
Hmm,
most great ideas that look great in your head may or may not turn great on the paper, right? So rather
definitely.
than contemplating whether this idea is going to work or not, just write a draft. And secondly, please have peer review groups or counselors or anybody else, right? But have somebody give you a reality check, and let that reality check not be at the end of 10th draft. Let that be at the end of your first or second draft, where somebody can just look at it and scratch it off and say, hey, you know what, this is absolutely crazy. It doesn't even bring out the best out of you, right? We can do something else. Or it could also be something where somebody can say, hey, this idea is great, but why don't you incorporate this and this? So have a solid peer group or a support group. I think that's what we're looking for. I wish sooner or later we would have some websites where there would be anonymous reviews for essays, because a lot of times I know a lot of people think that if I show my common app essay to so and so, they may just steal my idea, which is not true. Nobody can steal your idea because it's your experience. But I just feel that if there was some anonymity where students could just put up their essays, and somebody else, like a student, can review it and give their feedback, I think it would save a lot of time if you know any you're a computer science engineer, you can work on this. This is like a good startup idea for you when you go to Penn, like an anonymous place. It could also be very school specific, like you can have instances of it just for alumni or JPIS and current students. Similarly for other schools, right? Like the students are reviewing uh, students who've gotten these schools are reviewing the essays for students down there, and it could work great. But yeah, those are great piece of advice. And yeah, any last words before we sign off for this from this podcast review?
Definitely. I definitely feel that it's important to have a support group, a peer review group, or maybe a counselor reviewing your work, in the initial drafts. But I feel that an anonymous channel, I feel the most important thing when you show it to someone or, you try to accept their feedback is when you trust that person. And trust doesn't come that easily. So even though one or two individuals would have that openness regarding that entire anonymity, I feel that entire aspect of a college application reviewing is that you respect that individual, you know that individual, and you value that individual's words. So you're trying to take that thing in and then make the changes according to how you have lived that experience in a better way. So I feel, yeah, there are certain websites. I feel that I saw one on Shark Tank myself recently, Shark Tank India, where people review your college work, and it's good, it's great. But again, it's your work. You are, really smart enough to understand who you need to show it to, who you don't want to show it to. So yeah, it differs person to person. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the only reason I said it anonymous and then I said you should do it with your school is because your school seniors are possibly reviewing your essays, right? So it's not
Hmm.
like some random stranger. There is a veracity to it that oh, this
Hmm.
person was from the school, but I also understand the personalization. It's just that you're walking a very thin line between hey, whether this person will steal my idea vis-a-vis can I
Hmm.
trust this, right? So it's I think an individual choice, but I agree with you that you shouldn't hand over your essay to somebody you don't completely trust. So before we move on, any last words, Pranay, about college application, just general life, getting into school, and your overall experience?
Sure. How do I frame it? I'd say, even my council speech had this entire word. It's called supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and it's the second largest word in the world, I feel. And what essentially mean is amazing or splendid. And I would just want all of you to have a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious experience, while you're giving a while you're going through the entire college application process, because it's something that you're not going to live it again, and it's something that's really interesting, maybe documented. I have my friend who makes vlogs about it, so if you're into vlogging, you can record some parts of it. Or maybe if you want to become a future vlogger, become a YouTuber in the future, you can definitely just record it just for your memory. And along with that, we had a lot of challenges that we did. We had this, there's this chip called Jolo chip challenge, and it's like the spiciest chip in the entire planet. So the three roommates of ours, we just decided that when we complete our early application, or one day we just have that, and it was damn spicy. But we enjoyed it, and we recorded the entire thing, and we had water, sweets after that. So at the end of the day, like I said, enjoy your experience, and I think that's what's important. But you also need to be focused and have a specific deadline for everything that you want to do. So if one thing has to end by 10 p.m. today, and you have a party at 10:30 p.m., you're going to finish that thing, or maybe you have a party at 10 p.m. itself. Until you finish that thing, you're not going. You need to have that dedication on your own. If you need to, let's say, do schoolwork, but you're given a deadline college work by 11:30. You finish the college work and then you again do the schoolwork, because living up to your deadline is really important to just survive anywhere, not just IB, not just college application, but in life in general. So, yeah, uh, that's sort of like a goodbye for now, but you can always reach out to me online.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was a great piece of advice, letting folks know your views. What I'll also do is I'll leave your email address and your Instagram ID, which is anyways going to have a collaborator tag. People can reach out to you, they can email you. I don't want to divulge your number. That would be a breach of privacy. But emails greatly work. I think LinkedIn also works. So that's that. Thank you so much, Pranay, for your time. I truly appreciate it. It was such a different podcast from a lot of things that I've done. Very welcoming, pretty concise, but I was able to get in all the information. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for having me here. I had a great time too.